This is Chiming In with Elyse and David. Do you remember many years ago when I had the idea to start a VR business?
Yep.
Yeah. So I had gotten one of those Oculus Rift headsets that allowed you to basically go into a different world with a mask and goggles, and it was amazing. And I decided I'm going to start a business with this. I'm going to make this something that people would hire me to do. And within 1 week, I created, out of nothing, these 2 metal towers from parts from Home Depot. I bought the computers, I bought the headsets and TVs so that people could watch.
And a wonderful person created the name and designed a logo
That's right. It was called Convergence.
with the VR invergence
It was very
as
clever.
highlighted.
Very clever.
I wonder who that was.
That was you.
That was an amazing person.
That was you.
God damn,
What
she
a supporter.
rocks. God.
What a supporter.
Damn.
Well, the reason why I needed to do it within a week is that we had a show that was about to happen in Virginia Beach that was for weddings.
In the event industry.
And the person running the show said, if you wanted to showcase your new business, you could. So I had to get this whole thing built, and I did it in a week. And I brought it to the event, and everyone loved it. Like, it was a hit. People were playing around with it and everything. But at the end of the day, I did not have one person actually interested in hiring me to do it. And the reason why I'm bringing up the story is that I realized at that point that this was not going to be a successful business, even though I had gone through all this trouble. And the reason why I did this in the first place is that I felt like there were just green lights for everything.
There were.
Yeah, lots of green lights, and I just it was almost like something was compelling me to do all these things. And
You were guided. I get that.
I was guided, and it kind of reminds me of the fact that when you are pursuing anything, any decision, there has to be a certain amount of momentum behind that decision. And then there's just like one little thing that just pushes you over the edge. And we talk about like it being a tipping point, right? When you're pouring water out of a cup and it gets to the point where it just tips enough that the water comes out. And that reminded me, that whole episode reminds me of the hundreds and thousands of tipping points that we have in our lives, and how sometimes those tipping points lead us to pursuing things that we've always wanted to do, like write a book or start a business or pursue a career
Or redecorate the living room.
And if you don't have you haven't gotten to that point where you're going to tip, you're not going to do it.
Yeah.
And I think that if we were paying attention more to the fact that this is the phenomena that allows us to make decisions when we do have a goal, when we want to do something, we have to pay attention to why it is that we want to do it in the first place or not do it in the first place, and align ourselves with the things that will allow us to get to that tipping point so that we actually do what we want to do.
It's interesting that you're bringing this up because I have been spending a lot of time realizing that if I have a vision for something that I want to achieve, rather than spend a lot of energy trying to figure out how I'm going to get there, I've been doing the practice of trusting the process, that I don't have to know the process all the time, but because I can see what I want or have a goal to what I desire, I have been coached and am now practicing the art of living as though it has already come to be. So my book is already published, as an example. My living room is already done the way I want, as an example, in my mind. And then how does that look? What does that work?
Yeah, well, it's kind of like the same thing, because for you to imagine something happening, you have to have already committed to it. You've already decided in your mind, I can see the living room done because I've already want that. I don't know how I'm going to get there, but so you also have achieved that tipping point.
Exactly.
You had to get to the point where everything lined up in your mind to say, that's what I want.
Exactly.
For me, I probably do more of an analysis of, is everything lining up perfectly to say that this is something that I should even attempt
I think
before I
you do
actually
that.
say, this is what I want, the result.
I think I brought my story up to kind of counter yours, because they are speaking to the same idea, agree. And I think that you most of the time have such a high need to analyze it all so much that it actually prohibits you from doing the thing most of the time. And convergence, we always joke, convergence it up. We've never stopped saying that since that week that you gave effort to that, because I had never seen you analyze something less and yet want to do it so much. I didn't even know you knew how to screw or whatever you call it. Put a screw in the
Use
hole.
tools.
I don't even know what I'm saying right now. Use tools. Yes. I didn't even know you knew how to, I didn't even know you knew where Home Depot was, and we pass it every day. We live behind it.
And those
So,
towers were beautiful, were they not?
no, that they were, beautiful as a reserved thing for me for things that are not necessarily
I put fancy
man-made.
lights in them, and it was really cool looking.
You rocked them out, and it was I kept coming in the living room while you were working, and I'm like, what is happening here? It was mind blowing. It was as if in a week you decided to learn like 6 new languages. It was like something happened to you, and it was insane. I felt like I was living in some kind of alternate universe, and it truly might have been. So that's why I say you had the vision, and you didn't spend a minute. I mean, maybe you spent a minute analyzing whether it was worth your time, but you decided, like you're saying, that the something lined up in your head and heart that you weren't going to be out really anything by trying this. For some reason, you decided that, and you were full steam ahead. Anybody who knows this story knows that there was something that happened to you that week, and it was life-changing, because at the end of the day, it didn't serve you. It didn't work for you. If you think about it that way, you normally would have been like, it was a failure. You would have been scared if somebody would have said, you can try it, but it's probably not going to work out. You might have had that analysis, and you might have said, oh man, it's probably not going to work out. They're right. And you would have gone through and you would have figured it out that it may not be as viable, or something you wanted to spend your time on. But that's the thing, is anything you wanted to spend your time on will be successful. But you decided at the end of that day of the event that it wasn't going to be worth your time.
Correct.
So it changed.
I knew I could make it work. I just
You can
didn't.
make whatever you want work, and
Yeah.
you clearly showed that. But my takeaway, the reason we say convergence it up, and now so can the rest of the world, is that you did something in that very short amount of time. We literally put together a whole business physically, like a physical thing, and named it and everything. And I mean, it was like up and running in that 1 week of your life, because you decided it was something, it was a goal, and you could see it. And not everything is that short of a time, but you were working in a way that you had no idea what you were doing, and you weren't afraid. And you weren't afraid to fail. And that's that other quote I love all the time. What would you do if you couldn't fail? And
What would you try? What would you write? What would you
it
create?
wouldn't matter. The beautiful, that's what I think is beautiful, not your weird metal tower thing. Like that's cool. And like I said, you racked it out. But like the beauty was you, the humanness that you wanted to make something and didn't just think about it like it was some far-fetched thing in the distance. Because there was because there was pressure, I think is like what you were starting to say, that
deadline.
feeling of having
Got to
to
get some within a
you've
week.
had to. Right. So
Yeah.
there's that.
I'm still in awe that I did all that. And
It was many, many years ago, by the way. So for you to say you're still in awe, what's the awe from?
just that I had this goal and that I had this idea and that I made it happen.
David,
At the end of the day, I created it from nothing.
you do this all the
literally-
time.
Yeah. Do I?
Yeah. That was such a unique version of something you do all the time, because you had to hand build something. And like I said, I didn't even know you knew what a screw was. So the fact that you decided, you didn't spend time, drawing it out. You maybe drew it out for a second and then that was it. Moving, going. I'm like, how do you know what you're doing? And you're like, I don't know. I just know. And it was like you were guided. And honestly, you were, because you were in your, like what we call your highest vibration of people talk about high and low vibration. And in that moment you were stepping into your most authentic self, that you weren't using any fear. There was nothing to stop you from giving this a try. Literally nothing. And I think that is the thing that you're probably still in awe of. But yes, you have tried many things, like many, many things, in the desire that you want to give this business a try or give back to the community or whatever. You'll try all sorts of things, whether they are short-term, long-term, or just in this case, a life lesson that not so much that you should. I think somebody else might have said on the other side of this, God, that was for nothing. I should have known. I can't believe I just spent all that time doing that and that energy. That is crazy. And it's a bust. And I think that most people would probably take that onto themselves. And you maybe started to do that, if I recall, but I would not let you for 1 minute, because it was so absolutely it was so unusual. I don't want to say otherworldly, but it was kind of what I wanted to say. It was so bizarre that you were doing that. And why are we talking about this?
Well, because I think that we were talking about tipping points. We were talking about having enough momentum to do something. But now I'm actually thinking of some other things. And when you talk about building something in the living room, I think of Richard Dreyfuss in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, when he builds that tower, that mountain in his living room out of clay, because he was compelled to when he had that vision from the aliens or whatever. Just doing something crazy and just building it just because you're compelled to do it. It makes me think of that. But it also makes me think of what you tell me all the time when it comes to art, which is do the art and don't even care what the result is. And that's what I feel like I did with Convergence, is the fact that I went through that process, that I actually physically did it. It's almost like I can now check off, I did that. I can do that. If I needed to do that again, if somebody told me you have a week to build this, I can do it. And that allows me to have the confidence to do whatever it is I want to do in my life, knowing that if I put my mind to it, I can make it happen.
For sure. The one little thing we're not quite saying out loud or recognizing is that because you had the deadline, because you are even suggesting hypothetically, if I knew I only had a week to do this, I would do it. I could do anything. And that is how so much gets done for so many of us. And I think that it's not nothing, that law of procrastination is a real, actual thing. And even our son Avi, he just gave his capstone speech at his school to the fellow classmates and kids, and he spoke to that. Like, he knows when he has to do something, he gets his best wave of inspiration to
And motivation.
to create or to do when there is the like sort of the threat that it's time. And isn't that what we're always talking about? That if someone has a diagnosis or life is, all of a sudden, for sure, or you turn, 50 and you're like, well, that's a definite thing that I know my time is now.
What am I waiting for?
I guess I'm halfway if I'm lucky, but if not, it's less.
Right.
And it's like, well, shit, how have I been living? You might take that moment and reflect in your past, and then you look to the future and you may or may not be able to see. And whatever we think in this now moment is what's going to inform both the past and the future, right? So like our thoughts, when we put them out there, are going to give, like when you convergence, like you thought of this thing, the future was only a week away, and you did not let your past, or even really the fact that you had no business thinking you could do all of this, matter. You just went in and sort of allowed the guidance to become part of you, and like you trusted that you were going to do it.
There was no option. I had to
no
get the
option.
sign made. I had to get all the equipment together, and also figure out how to get it to the facility. So there were so many different little pieces to it. What you just said made me think of so many things. I was also thinking about someone with a diagnosis who's being told they only have a year or two to live, and how much that puts things in perspective about what it is that they want to do in those last 2 years, and how much we can learn from that. When we see that person and we're like, okay, well, if I put myself in that person's place, what would I do if I only had 2 years to live? We need to constantly remind ourselves that that is a thing, because we absolutely do not know how much time we have left. And if we do want to do something, why not just do it? I mean, just do it. We talk about friends that prohibit themselves from doing things because they're not experts in it. Oh, I would never write a book. I don't know how to put 3 words together. But have you tried? Have you ever just tried to do something? You may be surprised at what you can accomplish. If that's something that you absolutely want to do, you should try to do it. It also makes me think of this thing I've seen online. It's a calendar of a person's life. And so what they do is they have all of the weeks of a person's life on a calendar, 100 years or whatever. And it's meant for you to see on one sheet of paper what your life could be and how much of that time has already gone by when you mark where you are. And you actually see visually how many more weeks or months or years you have left. It really puts things in perspective. And it probably, it can motivate to say, do it, just do it. Like, what are you waiting for? Yeah, it's...
I think that's like such a great bird's eye view, what you're saying. And I think when you go down, like I picture the video camera from the movie Up High, like a overhead bird's eye view flying high, and then zoom down into the house, the roof, and you go into the living room and you see the family or you see the person. And that each of our day-to-day life is, what is it powered by? And is it powered by the like peaceful awareness that everything is going to be okay? Like the radical optimism that everything is going to be okay, and that each of these experiences that we're having every day, every minute, are all for our good, is all for good, and for our experience while we're here. And when when there is something that seemingly is happening that we don't like or doesn't feel comfortable, is that actually bad? Or is it something that we just need to navigate? And if a friend of ours is giving us a hard time and we're not really thrilled about the fact that we have to go to dinner with them because, they are constantly judging, is that something that we are okay with, that we're spending energy on? Or are we not honoring ourselves? Do we just make ourselves sick in some way because we didn't align with what we really, really feel, and that it's okay to not really feel a connection with that person? Maybe you once did, maybe you don't now. Maybe you never did and you just weren't honoring yourself, whatever. There's so much like minutia in the everyday mundane that sometimes zooming it back up, out, and looking at that bird flying high overhead and seeing, like you said, that what is left, what have we done? It's not actually, like, that's the part that we don't know. So we have to understand that we're always living with this unknown. A friend of mine yesterday said, I can't, isn't it weird that we know people who have passed so young, like that we're only in our 50s and, we know people that pass. And I thought that was such an odd thing to say, because I know so many people that have passed at so many different ages. I never, and I don't know, maybe that's my neurodivergent brain, but I always think like, what are you talking about? That's not true. So I have this whole like pushback in my head. And so I was like, how do I politely say I do not subscribe? So I was like, I think, whenever anybody's time is up, it's their time is up. I don't like the idea that anyone is just sort of killing time just to not realize all of their beautiful things that they could be doing in this moment.
You and I often talk about when somebody passes, I will ask, my first question is, well, how old were they? And you're like, why does that matter? And I think for me, there's a certain amount of loss when a person doesn't attain a certain age because they weren't able to go through all of those years. And I don't know why that I think that, because it is what it is. And it is their time. It was their time. And that is the way that it should be. And maybe it's a lesson for the people around them to learn, or who knows. But it is an odd thing, but it is kind of my knee-jerk thing when somebody passes. Well, how old were they?
And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, it does, I guess judging how much time somebody spends on this earth having a life doesn't, I just think it's a waste of time. Whenever we're here, and for however long we're here. And if we really want to live a long life, are we really looking at every day at how amazing and grateful and beautiful we have it? Even if there's something that would be listed as something yucky or bad or, not, is it still a life that, what is the point of wanting to live to be 100 if during our every single day moments we're like, kind of squandering it away, like dealing
on
with
social media.
Well, certainly in our phones, but like, what if we're just so annoyed at everything all the time, and yet that's still a goal? Like, why? So I think that, like you're saying, like those every single day, there's tipping points, and they could be something so small, like, that's when a child does something again, and you're like flipping out on it, and so, so there's all of this, but I guess my personal practice that I can say, if it helps, is I'm constantly trying to go back up to my highest vibration, which is, I guess when I say highest, it's also like closest to God or closest to something bigger than myself. So that is not,
Love. It's love.
it
The
is
highest vibration.
love and authenticity, right? So when we are only having our autopilot, everyday program, get up, go do whatever, and when there isn't a moment of devotion, right, to yourself or just something bigger than yourself. Everyone believes something different. So whatever works, whatever you believe is what works for you, right? So that's why I'll never understand why everyone's always tearing each other apart and fighting wars over religions and whatever. It's, what are we talking about? Just everyone can have their own version. We're all different, and yet we're all one. So two things can be true at the same time.
It's so true. Yeah, when you were talking about achieving things in your life, I was thinking of the life of Mozart and how he died in his 30s, having accomplished so much. I mean, look at what this man did in such a short time. And it's inspiring, and it shows what you can do in a short period of time. And when you put your mind to it and you have a love of what you're doing. And I think the trick is you just have to love what you do, right? I mean, when I was doing the convergence thing, I was so enamored with this technology and I loved it so much. I wanted to show everybody it.
Exactly.
And so that love and desire of creating something propelled me through a couple of sleepless nights
Yeah.
building this thing.
What do you say to somebody who has a job that they don't love what they do, or that they maybe just need to have the job to make ends meet, but that they don't have something else beyond that they really can consider as a something that they love?
Well, of course, if I were to give advice, I would need a little bit more information because I don't know all the ins and outs of the scenario you're giving. But as a general idea, if somebody's in a job that they are not getting pleasure from and they're kind of dreading to go to work every day, I absolutely believe that they should change their job. Life is too short to be living in a situation where you're just not happy with most of your days. If it's tolerable, meaning that you can still go there and it's not like you dread it, then I would try to see if there's a way you could pivot the job, like within the company, maybe work in a different type of position or for a different company if the company isn't what's giving you pleasure. And also to try to find the happiness in the day-to-day interactions that you have with people. It's all about people. It's all about improving people's lives to make yourself better. And I feel like I could have fun sitting at a DMV waiting for my number to be called if I were sitting next to somebody interesting and wanted to have a chat, right? So you can make something exciting as long as you have the right attitude.
Not everybody wants to chat. And I could have the same experience at the DMV by just sitting and observing other people and watching how other people interact with each other or how they showed up, or make up stories in my mind because I like to use my imagination. But I guess when I hear you say change jobs, that's not easy to do. So I don't know that that's sound advice, but I will say that in order to collect enough information to even consider doing that, I think that you need to have a desire so great in front of you in addition to your job. So you keep your job and you say, I really want to blank. And then and you start to visualize that, of course. It's like a vision board almost. You can make a vision board because then all the things you're doing, you can work your other job, but suddenly hopefully it is not so bad and it's just a means to an end. And while you're doing that, you start to fire up all the rest of your being, right? To enjoy the idea of whatever the other thing is. So you can have you can have two things at the same time.